Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a new video. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys 5 overlooked PS2 games that you guys can try out or pick up for your collection. Now obviously the PS2 has a giant library of games and a lot of great games in its library, so it's easy to overlook some games. So I just picked out 5 games here that you guys may not know of, and we'll go ahead and get right into the list. So the very first game that I have here to show you is a game called Nano Breaker. So this game I didn't know anything about before I purchased it. I kind of just found it somewhere on like a forum or something like that. So that's how I figured out about it. But this is actually a game published and developed by Konami. So this is basically a hack and slash game, a little bit similar to say like a Devil May Cry or like some of the newer Ninja Gaidens. But this game is super over the top. I think people usually like refer to it as like the early Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. So that's usually like what people compare it to or like joke about. But again, this is like a super over-the-top like hack and slash game. It's actually pretty cool. It's a little bit clunky like at times, just because it's like I would say like a little bit unique in what it's like trying to do. But the story's super over the top. It's pretty funny. You play as a guy named Jake. He's basically like a cyborg that has to. I think it's like a virus almost that you have to kill like people who are infected with this virus, and they basically become like monsters or something like that. But super over the top, like I said. But it has great art design, super cool. Like I said, a little bit clunky at times, but it's definitely super cool and definitely a game that you should check out. So that is Nano Breaker. And then the next game I have here for some sports titles, or if anyone who likes sports titles, this is a game called MLB Power Pros. So this is actually, I think, developed by Konami and then published by 2K. Now, this, again, I also didn't know anything about before I had got it. But this is like a fun little arcade baseball game. So this is actually made by this is actually a series for Japan, I believe. I think it's called... I want to say it's called Power Pros. That's the actual like series that they have for Japan. But I believe this was the first game that was ported for North America, or the first game made for North America. So pretty cool to see this little, it's again like an arcade baseball game, but super unique. It's actually very, very fun. Definitely recommend this one if you like baseball games or if you like sports games. And I had to put this one on the list just because, like, to give a little bit of variety. But that is MLB Power Pros. And then the next game we have here is a game called Dead to Rights. So this one is maybe a little bit more well-known than the other ones, but this is sort of like I'd say it's more along the lines of like a Max Payne. So it's like a third-person shooting game, but this one is, I think, published and developed by Namco, if I'm not mistaken. But you basically play as a police officer, sort of along the lines of, like I said, like a Max Payne. So it actually has like a bullet time component to it. And then you also control like a companion dog, which helps you like fight the bad guys and stuff, or get like the bad guys. A very cool little unique game. I believe this has like 3 games in the series. So there's like Dead to Rights 2 on PS2 as well. And then I believe it's on Xbox as well, but then they also have Dead to Right Retribution, which is on Xbox 360, which I also own and is also a great game. But definitely a cool little series that you might not think about all the time, but definitely a cool third-person shooting game, like I said, as similar to Max Payne. And then the next game we have here is a game called Raw Danger. So just in my pickups video, I actually showed another game published by H-Tech. H-Tech actually has some pretty underrated games in general. I'm trying to think. I think it's developed by a company called IREM or something like that. But this is actually the second game in the series. The first game that they made for PS2 was called Disaster Reports. This is kind of it's like a survival game. I wouldn't say, obviously it's not survival horror, but it's like a survival game where basically there's like a tragedy going on in a city, and you basically have to use your wits and stuff to, survive. There's obviously like survivors and stuff in the city. There's a very similar game on the Wii. I think it has something, or I believe it's called something similar. I think that's also called Disaster Report as well, but it's very similar to this type of game. But it's very cool. It has a bunch of different mechanics, obviously, in it, where you have to, resource management and stuff like that. And then you also have like a body temperature thing that you have to, take care of to make sure that you don't die. And there's a lot of different characters, a lot of different like little storylines that you can go through. So it's actually a pretty neat little game. And like even each character that you play with, obviously, like when you play them, each decision that you make will affect some of the other characters, or it'll affect the overall storyline. So pretty neat little game. And again, one you might overlook that you never even heard of. So that's Raw Danger. And then the very last game I have is an early PS2 game. This is called Extermination. So this is actually a survival horror game. Like I said, it's very early in the PS2's lifespan. This one was sort of supposed to be like a, I guess like an introduction, or supposed to be like a showcase almost for like PS2's capabilities in terms of like graphics and stuff like that. But this one is published by Sony Studio, and it's developed by a company called Deep Space. But basically you play as a Marine in like an Arctic area. You're like responding to like a distress call within like a base or something like that. And then there's like infected people or in like infected monsters. I think they're almost called bugs or something like that. I believe that's the monsters' names. But this one's pretty neat. You have like an infection rate or like an infection meter that is, you know, over you the whole time, or that will affect you during the gameplay. It's a little bit more fast-paced. You're kind of like encouraged to run around and stuff, as opposed to, you know, like maybe like sneaking or something like that, or being like a little bit more stealthy. But it's actually super cool. Pretty cool monster design in this game. And actually has some pretty decent music as well in it. Super cool. Hadn't heard about this one before either. But again, probably more overlooked because obviously you have some great survival horror games in general on like PS1 and PS2. So that is that one. So that's Extermination. So that is every game that I have to show you here. Let me know if you've heard of any of these games. Let me know if you played them. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Merry Christmas to everybody, and thanks for watching. See you guys.